Welcome to the Sunshiny Day podcast
from the British Council.
This podcast has been created to put a little sunshine into your lives.
And a little bit of English too.
Whether you're young, old, or really old.
Locked in, locked down, or locked out of your house, there's something for you here.
In this rather special episode celebrating International Women's Day, we're going to be showcasing some of the amazing, awesome women at the British Council.
Yeah, and you know, the amazing thing about women is...
Whoa, boys. If we're talking about International Women's Day, don't you think that there should be the...
Women talking about it?
Pipe down, boys, here we go. So, we're going to hear from one of the longest serving leaders in British Council, who is very sadly leaving us, Veronica Senior, MBE, who is with the British Council for 40 years and in a high managing role.
Then we'll hear an exclusive interview with teacher Ligia, the Canadian cake queen.
And we're going to also have an amazing exclusive musical performance from teacher Kate Senior and her beautiful family. And we're also going to have contributions from our students Madalena, Victoria and Maria.
We'll kick things off with reading our favorite poem by Maya Angelou, Still I Rise. Amina, the stage is yours.
Thank you.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise.
Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room?
Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise.
Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes? Shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries?
Does my haughtiness offend you? Do you take it awful hard? 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard.
You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness. But still, like air, I'll rise.
Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise.
Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise.
I'm a black ocean leaping and wide.
Welling and swelling, I bear in the tide.
Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I'll rise.
Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
So I think that women tend to be better when it comes to empathy and communication, which is a very important skill that is sometimes undervalued in leadership roles. But I think it is very essential in order to unite the team and make everyone want to work harder.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think women fight every day and have been fighting for a place in society. And from all of the previous experiences, I think women can bring a lot of things that maybe men couldn't understand because they are different. So yeah, I think women are great leaders, and I think they should be more appreciated.
Diversity is delicious.
Today I'm being joined by Ligia Louise, and we're going to talk about International Women's Day. And then Louise has kindly agreed to share a recipe with us. And more on that later. So, Leisha, first question. What does International Women's Day mean to you?
It's a very good question, and good afternoon, Fatima, and thank you for inviting me. International Women's Day is actually quite important because it should signal equality for women, I think. It's important for me because having been raised I grew up in Canada, and my parents were from Portugal, so they were first generation immigrants that brought with them their old school mentality. I mean, so it's what they were raised with, it's what they knew. And so having grown up in Canada in a very different culture, it was very difficult for me to break through the barriers. But, I wanted to do what my brothers could do. And so I just kept on.
Is that why you would say that women's empowerment and gender equality are important, Leisha?
I think they're very important. I think that women should have the same rights as men, and I think that women should be able to be firefighters if they want, or to be police women, or to be to work in construction if that's what they choose. And sadly, in many countries, it's still not possible. We've made quite a lot of progress over the last 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, but there's still a way to go. So, a lot of women can do these things now, but still in lots of parts of the world, they can't.
And why do you think we need more women in leadership?
That's a really good question. I would like to see things change. I mean, we have a history of wars and fighting, and I wonder if things would be different if we had more women in leadership. For example, there's the Prime Minister of New Zealand, who I admire greatly, Jacinta Ardern, Nicola Sturgeon, who have very forward-thinking ideas. And I wonder if maybe there would be a different way of looking at the world and a different way of handling problems. And I think it would be important to have that.
Yeah, because some people feel frustrated about the fact that the people who are in power, represent women, and they don't always understand their experiences, and yet they're dictating policies that will determine the rest of their lives.
Exactly.
So that could be, and not to mention the fact that women they represent quite a large portion of the population.
More than 50% of the world. So I think it's important that we be heard. I think it's important that we be represented, and I think it's important that we be looked after. Just as men have throughout all the generations past in history.
Can you share a woman's empowerment moment that inspired you, Leisha? Is there anybody that you can think of that has inspired you?
I don't think I have any one woman in particular. I think all women. I mean, I think it was just me trying to break out of that traditional aspect of the Portuguese upbringing, and fighting against what was expected of me, and thinking I just looking around at all the women in my class and around me in the society, and thinking, well, I could do that too. Why shouldn't I be able to? And then fighting against that. It was very difficult. It was very, very difficult. And I have a big family. I have lots of cousins, but I was the oldest female cousin. And I think I paved the way for the younger ones that came along after as well, because it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, especially growing up with two brothers and having had a differentiated upbringing. It was very difficult.
What's your International Women's Day message? Or what would it be?
I think keep the equality movement going. Keep fighting.
Yeah. So now you have a recipe that you'd like to share with us. What is the recipe?
Yes. Well, I was looking, and there's a couple of things that are traditionally Canadian. I mean, it's very difficult to think, what kind of food is typically Canadian, but this is a sweet dessert. Yes. And it is quite sweet. They're butter tarts. So it's made with a crust, like a pie crust. and you make them in little mini muffins. I suppose if you made a bigger one, it would be a butter pie, but nobody's ever actually made one because they're so gooey. Anyway, you start with the crust, and then you mix brown sugar, butter, eggs, and vanilla to make the custard, and then you bake that, and it's just so yummy. Very rich, very Canadian, but very yummy.
Why are they so Canadian? Why are they typically Canadian? Where did that come from?
I don't really know the origin of this one. I know that I can't find it anywhere I go. And when it's nice to have a piece of home when I go home and taste one.
Do you ever make them yourself here?
I've made them once or twice, and again, they're dangerous to have because they are so rich, and so I try to stay away from them. But I've made them once or twice, but it's not something that I'll make. No.
Are they like jam tarts?
I'm not sure what a jam tart is.
A jam tart is like a crust, and then it has a jam inside it. So like the center is filled with so it's like it's a mini pie, if you like, and then it's made out of pastry. So just the bottom, and then in the middle is jam, like strawberry jam.
I'd say they're more like the Portuguese custard tarts.
Oh, right,
they're very much so. Like, and the center is gooey like that. So it's not solid, but it's not liquidy either. So it's kind of it's like a custardy, made of brown sugar, eggs, butter, and vanilla. They're just really nice.
Could you put anything else into the center? Like, could you make them savory and perhaps put tomato ketchup in them?
I wouldn't even fathom such an idea. What you could do is you could put pecans in there and make it kind of like a mini pecan pie, I suppose. Individual
What's
pecan
wrong with
pies.
tomato ketchup in there?
I don't know. I wouldn't eat it. What do you mean with the brown sugar?
No, in the pie crust.
Oh, in the pie crust. Possible. Well, I don't know. Ketchup in the pie crust. I don't know. Maybe you could put some lemon zest in there, I suppose.
Okay.
Savory. Well, if you change that, then you're changing it to, it would be something completely different. It would be like a mini quiche, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Okay, Licia. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Maybe women, like Victoria said, bring up more empathy, and I think they are very professional also when talking and communicating, and they bring a sense of motherhood and a person that you look up to and you listen carefully. So I think it's no coincidence, and I think it just shows that women can rule the world.
It's better if it's equally divided by everyone, but definitely women should have more roles should have more important roles, and I think the world could greatly benefit from that. In a lot of ways, my mom inspires me. I think she's a very talented and hardworking woman, and I definitely look up to her in that way. She's someone who has a lot of skills and can do a lot of stuff and is very, very hardworking, like I said, and I admire her a lot.
I would say my aunt, because she has a really good energy, and she recently quit her job to work at her company. So she created a company, and she was very brave. And I was so happy for her. I think she's super hardworking, professional, and she even asked me help. And I came up with the actual name of the company. It was great, and just showed that, yeah, we are able to do great things. And just take a step and don't be afraid. Don't look back.
I was asked recently to talk about women in leadership roles in the British Council. I thought it was a strange question because I believe the ratio of women managers in the British Council has always been relatively high. Though actually, when you stop to think, you realise that most of the women are in middle range positions, trying their best to implement decisions made by men at a higher level. But anyway, it got me thinking about the many managers I've worked with to see if it's possible to identify gender-related qualities. I've burrowed away for 43 years in Lisbon and rarely come up for air, so please bear in mind that my view of things is probably very limited. But I hope I learnt something from all of the managers I've worked with, whether male or female. Even the ones who were frankly poor served to show how not to do things. So here are my thoughts on leadership. Good leadership comes from knowing the route, knowing the people who are travelling along with you, making sure there's enough fuel to make it all the way, and that there are plenty of pit stops for refreshments. Setting a good example is also fundamental in my opinion. I recall one manager who used office staff to drive him down to his yacht at weekends, and another who always made a point of using public transport so that nobody could ever accuse her of squandering British Council money. There was another manager who regularly used to call in to say he was working from home. Bear in mind that this was before we had computers or the internet. And then there was another one who always made sure she was the first in the office and she was the last to leave. I could go on with more examples, and you might begin to spot a gender pattern. But it's never that simple, because the man with the yacht was very good at making friends for the British Council, which enhanced our reputation, and the woman who worked those long hours ended up actually damaging her health and having to give up. But all of them gave me food for thought and something to learn from. And really, you can't ask for more than that, can you? Speaking of learning, I'd just like to tell you about my daughter Kate, whose story reminds me of Goldilocks. First, she decided to study law at university. She finished the degree, but she found it too boring. Then she did various postgraduate courses, including urban planning, but it was all too dull. Then finally, she did a teacher training course, and it was just right. It took a while, but she finally found something which provides an outlet for her creativity and her love of people.
I feel very inspired by Malala, just the braveness and all she did to fight for the women's rights. I think she's very inspiring for everyone.
I'm not sure if there's anyone that I want to mention, but I definitely look up to some women, either artists or also like politicians, especially nowadays, like we discussed with the current situation. I think we've seen a lot of women play a very important role in this whole situation in a very noble way sometimes. From what I can see, there still are not a lot of women in politics, in big important roles in politics, and also there aren't a lot of business women, at least in the top companies in our country. So that's definitely something that I want to see improve in the next couple of years. And I like to believe that we're headed in that direction.
That's enough of that. Now, some of this.
On International Women's Day, what should the world be thinking about and celebrating?
Women bring people together. They help messages come across, and most women who are in leadership promote sensible decision making. And if you stop to put yourself in someone else's shoes, you're already fighting for human rights and making a difference in your tiny, tiny bubble.
Have you experienced discrimination as a consequence of your gender?
Well, I'd be very surprised if any of the women listening to this podcast said that they'd never experienced discrimination as a consequence of their gender. because it comes in so many shapes and forms. It might be an innocent child in the school playground who says, "You can't do it, you're a girl." Might be a controlling boyfriend and a friend who argues that what he's doing is just normal. This is a common case in Portugal, by the way. A very recent study shows that 26% of teenagers who were interviewed think it's legitimate to control and check their partner's phone. And a horrible 60% admit that they've had violent behavior towards their partners. So, breaking the barrier of what has become acceptable or normal is probably one of the greatest challenges of women nowadays.
What are the issues that Portugal needs to address in terms of gender equality?
When I was a law student, I heard sexist remarks made by teachers in Coimbra University towards so many of us. And, well, it's not only men against women. As a law intern, I had one of those, life-changing Forrest Gump moments. I was attending one of the lessons at the Bar Association, Ordem dos Advogados, and the teacher, who is a lawyer, a woman whose name I can't really recall, but the color grey comes to mind from everything that she was wearing and everything that, well, she seemed to be. She decided to give us some tips on how to survive those 2 years of training, to be strong and confident to face these men, and that we wouldn't make it if we didn't have at least 2 stomach ulcers by the end of the semester. So I stood up, looked at her and said, "Tenho tanta pena," which, can be translated to "I'm so sorry." And I just left the room. And I'm sure she's got very strong reasons to give this advice. But, well, I decided then to become a teacher.
You and your family have produced a wonderful song to celebrate International Women's Day. Could you tell us about the process of making that song and why you choose that song in particular?
This is such a beautiful song by José González, right? My good friend Carl nudged me because, well, he knows how strongly I feel and have fought for women's rights in the past. And the song, Every Age, isn't an obvious choice. I mean, there are so many songs produced and performed by powerful women, but the message within the lyrics resonates what I think is my view on these issues right now. The cover of the song was recorded in lockdown last month between feeding my 4-month baby, and it was edited beautifully by my husband. So it was a real family project. And I think that this pandemic has forced us to look at our little bubbles in the most microscopic way. And I feel that key words like respect and empathy are things that might shape change. And as a teacher and mother of 2 tiny creatures, girl and boy, by the way, I felt that this tune was what 2021 needs.
Maybe I think I will try to do something important with my life. Maybe not being a businesswoman, but something else. Yes.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Victoria. Men tend to occupy higher positions and, for example, companies, when women are working more in education or, for example, as a nurse. So I think we should grow, and I hope we grow to become more equal with these positions.
I would say to know your worth and do not let anyone try to convince you that you're someone that you're not and that you can't do something. Because if you believe in yourself and you work hard and you believe in your potential, no one will be able to stop you. So as long as you know your worth and you work really hard in order to achieve what you want, I'm pretty sure you can make it.
Work hard on your education to get all the knowledge that you need. Don't be afraid to show your true self, because there is when you stand out, and that is what makes a good leader. So you showing your true self and your values and your worth.
And finally,
Every age has its turn. Every branch of the tree has to learn to grow, find its way, make the best of this short-lived stay. Take this seed, take this faith, take this dream of a better day. Take your time, build a home, build a place where we hold can belong.
Some things change, some remain, some will pass us unnoticed by. What to focus on, to improve upon, in the face of our ancient tribes.
Feels so clear, feels so obvious to each one on their own. But we're here together, reaping what's happened, what we have sown. We don't choose where we're born. We don't choose in what pocket or form. But we can learn to know ourselves on this growing the void. Take this mind, take this pen, take this dream of a better land. Take your time, build a home, build a place where we all can belong.
So that's it. I hope that was a nice change from hearing those boring boys, right, Amina?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe you'll hear more from us. That's the end of the episode. Don't forget to visit the Sunshiny Day podcast homepage.
And see Lygia's yummy-licious tart recipe.
And why don't you have a go at making it yourself?
And if you would like to take part in future episodes of the Sunshiny Day podcast,
remember to leave your name with us, Amelia and Amina, on our homepage.
yes, not Matt, not Cal. Forget about that.
All right, Queens, enjoy.
Lovely. Very good.
Bravo.
Well done.
Oh my God!
Oh.
That was great. That was so good. I think maybe you should replace us, actually.
Definitely.
No, it's not a joke anymore.
I think we're out of a job, Carl. I think that's it.
Oh, yeah, totally. Whose idea was it to invite them?
It might have been yours, Carl.
How do I stop?
Oh, it says that you started recording now. Wait,
No, I
stop.
don't know how to stop.
Okay. This meeting is
just hang
being
up?
recorded. Are you sure you want to stop? Stop recording.